All right. So we have been discussing the four elements of ancient India. The first one is earth, which is solid. Okay. And then there is water, which is both flowing and also has the quality of cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, when you buy a tube of glue, it's always kind of a liquid, one way or the other, whether it's when you mix two liquids together, and in fact, you can mix liquids together in a way that has that quality of being able to mix things together. For instance, you can put salt in water and have salty water. You can have two kinds of glue components when you mix them together. Now, the thing of it is that you can't mix two cars together. All right. You can't mix two pieces of wood together, but what you can do is to glue them together.
Right.
Okay, this is what we mean by the quality of cohesion as well as fluid. All right, and this, let me go ahead and do the other two. One is called fire, which is elemental in the sense that the other elements change depending upon fire, and that you can think of fire also as the temperature. This is kind of valuable when we talk about the internal uh, four elements. And then we have the last one, which is kind of like air, but another word for it would be smoke,
Mm.
fog, clouds. All of that is all over the place, flowing, okay, constantly flowing, but it doesn't have a cohesion. But you can compress air. Water is hard to compress. It does compress with temperature, but uh, gaseous quality, okay? And one of the qualities of gas is that it moves and goes anywhere. So when we take these four elements on the outside in physical reality, what the Buddha did was he took them um, as placing them on the inside. That in fact, this is one of the major changes that the Buddha made. One of the basic insights was is that he took all kinds of things. For instance, the Four Noble Path that he took that from Ayurvedic medicine,
Mm.
and he took the four foundations of mindfulness from the ancient Indian elements. So a lot of the stuff that is foundational to the teachings of the Buddha, he actually borrowed. He borrowed most of the words, like Aryan and Nibbana and all kinds of other things. The word jhana already existed in the time of the Buddha. Okay, so these four elements that we're talking about, he borrowed, but he put a different spin on it. From instead of the outside elements, it becomes the inside elements. And so Earth then is on the inside would be the body, the
Mm.
parts of the body that are strong, like hair and nails and teeth and bone and all of that kind of stuff that's in the body. And then you'll have an air element in the body also, which has to do with breathing, gas, farting, all of that. There's still air. There's also in the body liquids like urine and blood and all of that kind of stuff that's in the body. And also, the body has temperature in the sense that you can feel cold, you can feel hot, that the body tries to maintain a temperature of 98.6 degrees in the reference of Fahrenheit. Okay, so all of the four elements are actually in the body, as well as the way that we want to look at it in the sense that the cohesion or the fluid on the inside then is reference to our emotions, to our feelings. And one of the ways that we do that is because if we like something, we cohese with it. We want it. We try to bring it to us. And if we don't like something, then we try to push it away, try to get rid of it. Then the fire element is the state of mind that you're in. That when you get hot, when you get angry, that's a state of mind. Mostly people are in the state of mind of being a victim. In fact, the victim is what causes the heat in the sense of being angry. If you're not victimized, then you're not ever going to get angry. The only reason that you'd ever get angry is because you think that somebody's done you wrong.
Mm.
You're a victim to whatever they did. But if people can't touch you, then you can stay cool mentally. Also, you can stay strong mentally. So this is why the mind is considered the fire element, is because of our attitudes. And we either make things hot or cool depending upon our attitude of whether we're a victim or whether we're a winner. And then we have the air element, which is basically the same thing as the smoke or the fog that we have, is the thoughts that we have inside the mind. And so what we can do is start to see how active and fluid and moving around. In fact, in Buddhism, they often refer to it as the monkey mind because it's just jumping all over the place, just like the breeze, just like the winds. That if you stand and watch a cloud, it's going to change. It doesn't stay the same. So this is how the mind works. And so the Buddha takes those four elements, and these become the foundations for the things that we're going to be mindful of. They're referred to as the four foundations of sati. That's, or the word then would be the satipatthana. Now, the word patthana actually comes from the word pedal or the word foot, right? So you have a pedestal or you have footing. So this means the four foundational things. This is your basic you. This is it. This is your thusness. So in the outside world, everything is made up of the elements, and on the inside, everything is made up of these four elements. And so this is what we have to become aware of one by one as they occur. People will ask, well, which one do I do first? The answer is whoever's first in line at this particular moment. And so this is where we begin to have that foundation of mindfulness so that we can, in fact, watch the kind of thoughts that we have, watch our mental attitude, watch how we feel, and watch how the body is doing, how it feels in the sense of sensation.
Mm.
Proprioceptic or touch, taste, sight, all of those atanas come through the body. And then they go to the mind and are processed through perception. And what we come up with then is our perception of things is often not the same as what is reality. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's affected by the state of mind we're in.
Right.
It's affected also by our memories and our past. For instance, if you see something that you've never seen before, then you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've seen a car and you've seen one before, you know what a car is. Right. Because you've seen it before. And so this is when we perceive something to be a car, when in fact it may be just a piece of paper with a drawing that is similar to a car. And we'll immediately jump to say, oh, that's a car, without saying,
mm,
that's a piece of paper with an image of a car on it, which would be more correct. So
right.
you see that we jump to conclusions that are often not real. And so if a child, you show a picture of a car to a child and ask them what it is, they'll say it's a car. Then the question would be, well, can you get in that car and drive away like you would a real car? No, you can't. It's not a car. It's a picture of a car.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the kind of distinctions that we need to start to make, rather than jumping to the conclusion that because we remember what a car looks like and this looks like a car, it's not a car, it's a piece of paper. And we are confused with all kinds of things like this. And in fact, that's what politics is all about. All the politicians keep telling you something that's real, and in fact, it's nothing but a piece of paper.
Mm,
Money, in fact, is not really real in the sense that it's got value, it's just a piece of paper.
right.
Whether it's a bank note or whether it's a Federal Reserve note or whether it's just a bank statement, it's still just paper. And most people live their lives as if it were real. In the old days, real wealth had to do with the gold bullion. The gold bullion is hard to work with. It's a whole lot easier to work with a piece of paper. But we make the mistake thinking that that piece of paper is actually money. Can you remember that kind of stuff? Can you remember that you're actually creating money inside your mind when you're actually looking at a piece of paper?
Yeah.
All right, so that's the whole point of it is that our perceptions then lie to us on a regular basis unless we're wise to these perceptions and recognize that we often lie to ourselves because what we see here and now reminds us of something that we've seen before, when in fact it's not the same. So people jump to conclusions. We paint images in the mind. For instance, if I say, I see a motorcycle out there, the motorcycle that I see, you think of a motorcycle, and more than likely it's not the same motorcycle.
Mm,
Or if I say I see a tree out there, then the tree that I see is more than likely not the mental image of a tree that you create.
right.
And so when people are talking and communicating with each other, it's quite possible that they're talking about the same thing while they're arguing ferociously that it's not the same. And what's really not the same is the perception is not the same, but the reality is probably the same or not. But we have perceptions. So these are the four foundations of mindfulness to begin to see that this is something that's really worth valuable, because a whole lot of our dissatisfactions comes from the fact that we're making stuff up instead of living in reality. And so we feel bad about what we make up. In fact, what's real is no problem. And so this is the real practice that we have, is to start looking at what kind of thoughts you have, what kind of mental attitude you have, what kind of feelings that you have in the sense of liking and not liking, or there's actually a third kind of feeling, and that third kind of feeling is both, mixed. I like it and I don't like it, which means then that we become confused as to whether we like it or not. We want to make sure, we want to fall in one class or the other. We don't like that in between place where we don't know, because we have two different feelings for it. And it's a feeling of confusion, it's a feeling of unsettledness. Now, generally, what happens is that when people are confused about something, they don't know what it is, they most always throw it into the case of not liking. All right? They don't like it. And because of that, we often feel bad. Here's a clear example of that, of why it came that way in our nature. Let's imagine in this story that two people are traveling down a pathway many hundreds of thousands of years ago. Maybe they were almost human, but not quite human yet. Right? Way back in the old days. And let's say also that they're walking down this path and they've got spears with them because they're out hunting. And then they hear together at the same time a rustle in the bushes behind them. One's going to turn around to see what it is, and the other one is going to immediately start running away. Right? He's already doesn't know what it is, so he's going to choose that he doesn't like it, and he's running. Might be dangerous. Okay? Here's the question. Which one of them survived?
The one that runs.
The one who runs away survived, and the one who turned around to see what it was got eaten. Okay, so you can see how our nature then tends to put our confusion and our lack of knowledge into the I don't like it category. All right. And you could call it also, we've got a lot of words for it in our modern language. One, it would be the fear of the unknown. Better the devil you know than the devil that you don't. Humans don't like to not know.
Right.
Well, guess what? You'll never know everything. So we have to actually come to the point of finding out, well, what is enough to know and be satisfied with just enough. And all we need to know then is that if you're safe right here and now, because there's no gorillas, there's no tigers, there's no snakes, there's no alligators, there's no cops, there's no mafia. If you're in your room and you're alone, more than likely you're safe. Right? Can you see that? Well, why is it then that so many people have fear often when in fact the reality is that in this moment they're safe? They start thinking about their bank statement and they feel afraid. They feel uptight. Feel like I got to go do something. They're not happy. They don't know about the bank and they're confused, and so they're uncomfortable. And so our real practice then is to get yourself into seclusion, get away from other people, get away from everything, so that you can actually create a real situation where the body is safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If we can do that, then we can also see that so that we can begin to have the attitude that we're safe. We can begin to have thoughts that we're safe. Guess what? Then we can begin to feel like we're safe. Now, don't you like to feel safe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff to feel safe, as opposed to feel like you're in danger and you're in an unsafe situation. And yet, how much of the time do we spend mentally in unsafe thoughts?
A lot of the time.
A lot of the time. Okay, so let's stop being in unsafe thoughts, because the reality right now is that we're safe. This is the practice. In other words, that we know enough. What do we know? Right now, we're safe. Right now, we're safe. That's all we need to know. And all of those things that we don't know become irrelevant. Like, does God exist? Or does the reincarnation exist? Or is the religion correct? None of those things matter. What really matters is right now, do you feel safe? And can you start living your life so that you wisely remain in a state of safety? That's all we really need. Isn't that
What about
amazing? Go ahead.
what about for like people who are in unsafe situations?
Well, should they not be wise enough to get out of the unsafe situation into a safe situation? Perhaps taking a hike,
Hmm.
taking a trip. If you're
What
walking
about if
down a
like
busy highway, that's dangerous. Why don't you go walk someplace else?
mhm,
Go on the byways rather than out on the highway. Yes, that's the whole point. That's a major, major part. I'm glad that you asked that. Um, the Buddha would take a hike. Student just asked me yesterday, what do you do when there is trouble? And the answer to that is, if you can see that trouble coming in advance, you could head in the other direction so that trouble never gets to you. That's the way you handle trouble, is by staying away from it, keeping yourself safe.
is
And
it
so if somebody comes up and starts yelling at you, can you remain safe? Can you feel safe? You can recognize, well, they're yelling, but they're not hitting me.
mm,
So you can feel safe. How about a cop stops you? The cop hasn't got his gun out yet, so you can feel safe. So a lot of the times we create the feeling of being in danger when in fact the reality is that we're not in danger. And you can
mhm,
deal with that cop in a way so that he is not feeling threatened by you. He is not afraid of you. And so therefore there's no reason for you to be afraid of him. But often when people are afraid of the cops, that creates an air of fear, and the cops are going to respond to that with fear by getting their gun. The
mhm.
reason that a cop is going to get his gun out is because he's afraid. So that's the way to handle it, is to really see that in the situation, you're not afraid. You're not, because it's not dangerous. That in fact, often, you create the danger. Mostly we create it in the mind. So if you can get your body in a state to where you are completely safe, then you can have safety thoughts. You can have the attitude of, I'm on top of the world because I've made everything safe. And then you can actually start to feel safe. Those are the four foundations of mindfulness right there. And so this is the way that we practice.
Okay, that makes sense.
And practice in the sense of staying in seclusion so that we can practice staying in a place where we know there is no danger.
By seclusion, do you just mean like alone in your room or something like that?
Alone in your room is secluded enough.
Mm,
You don't have to go to a cave or a mountain. Just close the door. Sometimes, if you're on a bus, just closing your eyes so you're in seclusion. Don't look at what's happening around you. Because if you see what's happening around you, you may start to feel unsafe. So that's the way to handle it.
got it.
And so this is our practice, is to see that our thoughts are unsafe and make a change to them. To see that our body is unsafe and make a change so that we get our body into a safe place. To see that our mental attitude is not one of being safe, it's actually the mental attitude of being in danger is exactly the same thing as the mental attitude of being a victim. That you're one down, you're the underdog. You're
Mhm.
told what to do, and you've got to do what you're told to do because you don't feel safe not doing what you're told to do. So Isn't it easy? I mean, this is a very simple practice.
It is.
And you don't have to know 10,000 sutras. You don't have to know Pali language. You don't have to know all that stuff. All you need to know is, are you safe? Can you get yourself safe? Safe and secure will lead to comfort. Safe and secure and comfortable will then lead to satisfied. If you feel safe, you begin to feel satisfied with that. And if you continue doing that over and over and over again, that will lead then to the attitude and the feeling of being successful at being safe.
Mm-hmm.
So you begin to be successful. Now, successful is certainly not something that a victim has. So start cultivating the quality of everything is okay, that you've got it wired, that you're the winner here. You've got it made. You're successful at life. Can you practice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So there's not much else to it. If you can feel safe and secure and satisfied and successful, what else do you want?
Nothing.
That's pretty good stuff, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Sorry, one question. Earlier you talked about like seeing things or seeing reality instead of imposing our perception onto it. I guess like when you mentioned like when you see a car, like my mental image of a car is different than what you would see perhaps. I guess like how do you know when something is reality versus perception? Or when you're perceiving something, sorry.
That requires investigation. That requires that you look to be able to see reality as it is and know that real is real,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to what you've made up.
Okay.
And that often we make stuff up in order to be in a state of danger, because the self-preservation instinct, its primary job is to keep you safe. The reality is that self-preservation instinct is actually quite successful, but it's still in gear. And so we go around finding dangers that don't exist. So that's your perception, is start looking at the dangers you see when in fact there's no danger at all.
Got it.
All right. Well, you go practice some then and call me again and we'll go over it all again.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And by the way, you can join us on our Sangha calls on Friday evening U.S. time, or if you're in India, that would be Saturday morning early. I think India is an hour and a half ahead, so that would be 7:30 in the morning.
Okay. I actually just came back a couple of days ago. So
Pardon?
I'm in US. I'm in the US now. I just came back a couple of days ago.
Okay, where in the U.S. are you?
Chicago.
Chicago. Okay. So, 9 a.m. here is 8 p.m., I think, in Chicago.
Okay. Yeah, I can check.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Also, you can join us on our Skype groups, making chats. We've got a lot of friends, and I
Okay.
invite you to come join. All right. We'll see you.
Bye.
Oh, have you signed up for the website?
I've seen it, but I don't know how to sign up per se.
Well, at the top right-hand corner is a login and a sign-in sheet,
Okay.
or a little icon. A little blue icon. Actually, it's a big blue icon right at the top of the right-hand corner of the screen. And you just click that for login or sign in. And when you say sign up, it'll take you to the registration page. Easy, easy to do.
Oh, okay. I see it.
All righty.
I'll do that.
So join up. Put your photo. Make sure you put in a photo.
Okay.
The site's very photo oriented. Okay. Well, we'll see you.